Hello everybody and welcome back to Robert's Reviews. Today is Friday, the 26th of February, which, as you all know, Fridays I do new releases. Today's only release I'm going to be talking about today, I'm only doing one because there's other movies that came out today, but I just don't think that they're as prominent as this one, and I don't really have a lot of time today. So if there's another movie that came out today and you want me to review it, go ahead and drop it in the comments down below, and maybe over the weekend I'll give it a shot. But as of today, I'm looking at all the new releases, and this is the only one that I'm like is prominent that people are going to want to watch. So today we're going to be talking about Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry was released in 2021, today, and it was written by Kevin Costello and directed by Tim Story. So, for those of you guys who aren't familiar with Tom and Jerry, essentially it's a cartoon that ran, I think it's the 90s, and is still, I think, running today, about a cat and a mouse, basically, where the cat and the mouse are always fighting, and somehow the mouse is always winning, which is anti-evolutionary, and it's funny for kids. The kids love it. I used to like it. It never was my favorite thing. I never really got deep into Tom and Jerry. But I do see that it is funny and people enjoy it, which is the important part here. I think overall, so this movie is interesting because it follows that sort of. It's a Tom and Jerry movie, right? Where we start off with Tom and Jerry hating each other, going back and forth, fighting each other. But they find this hotel, okay? And in the hotel, there's a very important wedding going on. And we have to find Kayla, and Kayla basically cons her way into becoming the events manager there. So she's in charge of the wedding. But Tom and Jerry are there messing everything up. So she finds Jerry and trying to get rid of Jerry because you don't want a mouse at your wedding. And so she hires Tom to take care of Jerry. And of course, they destroy the hotel because that's what Tom and Jerry do. Then Tom and Jerry become friends, kind of, which is weird. And, you know, Kayla gets fired and the wedding gets called off because it's that bad. And essentially what happens is Kayla's like, you know what, Tom and Jerry, we're gonna make a better wedding. And so they try to do that, and they do, and it's all happy in the end. So here are some basic thoughts to start off with for this movie. For one, it's not a Tom and Jerry movie, okay? It's not. Tom and Jerry episodes were really fun because we got to watch the fighting between back and forth. It was the whole thing with Roadrunner and whatever, where they would always run around and trick each other basically. And this just didn't feel very tricky. They were fighting each other for a little bit, but for the most part, the focus on the story is actually on Kayla and Terrence and Prita and Ben, which is fine because I liked that story part. I liked that element of the wedding at the hotel and having to fix everything. I liked that a lot. The issue that I had was you can't label it Tom and Jerry and not have them be the most prominent characters, right? I liked Kayla way more than Tom and Jerry, which I think you're supposed to because they are human. Well, she is. And I think that the main issue that I had in terms of liking her more was I liked her story way more than Tom and Jerry's, right? Because Tom and Jerry just fight from the beginning. The middle is kind of meh, and then they kind of fight for the ending. And it's weird how they labeled it Tom and Jerry, but they could have just taken Tom and Jerry out of the movie, and it would have been just as good, right? It would have been probably a little bit better. Because the times that we were only focusing on Tom and Jerry, we weren't getting anywhere. There wasn't any plot difference between the scenes where we were like, oh, that's Tom and Jerry. It was basically like watching a movie about a wedding, and then sometimes you'll have an advertisement about Tom and Jerry in the middle, which is how it felt. It wasn't supposed to be that way, I think, but it's how it felt. That is a problem. I think we could have just had a Tom and Jerry movie where they just kind of run around and they kind of get hurt and all that stuff, like we see in the show, right? The show is funny because that's all the show really is. There isn't a whole lot of, plot surrounding it, particularly with humans, right? And Tom and Jerry don't talk in this, which is good. Jerry does sing, or Tom does sing, and I didn't like that. I don't think they should have talked or sung, because they didn't do that in the show. And so this is also animated and live action, for those of you who didn't know. So all of the animals in any way, shape, or form are all animated, right? Even the dead animals that they're eating are animated, right? Which I thought was kind of cool, how they kind of thought about that. But the whole everything is animated kind of felt redundant. And it's hard to say redundant because it's in a world where that's normal, and you kind of get the point that all animals are like that. But it felt like we were just putting animals everywhere for the sake of having animals. And that kind of felt really annoying. and hard to watch almost. I think that one thing that they would have done better with is get rid of the birds that just randomly sung and talked. They basically were narrating the movie at some parts of the movie, and there were these birds that would just talk, and I'm like, we don't need those. We could just not narrate it. They were narrating things that we already knew about. Pointless. The movie is like, I don't remember, it was like an hour and a half, maybe a little bit longer. I think it was like an hour and 40 minutes, maybe. It didn't feel very long, but it didn't feel very short. It did feel, I think, about an hour and 40 minutes. But I think that the only thing that was enticing me into watching the movie, I think, was the acting particularly and the story revolving around the wedding. I liked the wedding a lot. I didn't care that Tom and Jerry were there. They almost didn't do anything to ruin it, because the wedding would have been ruined anyway, because the woman didn't like the wedding because it was over the top extravagant. Even if Tom and Jerry didn't destroy the place, the wedding still probably would have been canceled anyway. So it felt like there wasn't a big reason for them to be there, and therefore it didn't feel like a very big reason to have a Tom and Jerry movie. I also want to know, I never asked for a Tom and Jerry movie. I'm pretty confident the world didn't ask for one. That being said, in terms of just overall general enjoyment, I think it was funny. I think I had a lot of laugh out loud laughs, but they were laughs that were they were the Tom and Jerry laughs. There were never a moment where I laughed because of not Tom and Jerry. But again, Tom and Jerry felt like these weird interludes in between all this time that we could have had actual plot surrounding them, where instead they were like, let's focus on this wedding. There's something else I wanted to mention, but I forgot. Oh no. Well, let's talk about the acting, if I remember, which I think I will write it down. First, Chloe Grace Moretz as Kayla. So I think Kayla was really, really cool. I did enjoy her character a lot. She basically cons her way into becoming the events manager, and I thought it was really interesting how we did that. I had a lot of fun watching that, and I think that her character is really fun, but I don't understand why she's able to communicate with Tom and Jerry so well. It was really weird how they were able to do that. I guess it's charades, but it's a cat and a mouse. You shouldn't be able to see those that well. I understand they're animated. I understand it's a cartoon, but that's fine. I remember what I was going to say real quick. This movie is very dated already. I can already tell you, in 5 years, this movie's going to be gone. No one's going to realize that it's there because they put jokes that are so right now in there, right? They put a lot of 2020 jokes in there that aren't going to last through history, right? If you want to make a movie for kids, right, then it has to be something that's going to last enough time for it to make sense to be a thing, right? If you're going to make, say, Harry Potter, right, you don't want Harry Potter to just be a thing for a year and then go away, right? So what they do is they make jokes or things or make things last, where if I'm watching this in 2025, I'm not going to be confused. This movie just had so many, relatable jokes for right now that are just not going to be relatable in about a year and a half, that it's going to be annoying for kids that are going to want to watch this. This is definitely a movie for kids for right now. Will not be in the future. That is a problem. Anyway, back to Chloe Grace Moretz. I think she was fine. I don't disagree with the casting decision. I think it was a fine casting decision. I had no problems with it. I feel like it's also a hard character to mess up, really. There wasn't a lot of deep emotional content from any of these characters. Michael Pena as Terrence. So, Terrence is funny, but Michael Pena is always funny. But Terrence, I think, is in particularly quite funny because he is, at first, a really, funny guy because he just works at the hotel. He's the events manager. Then he gets fired and he becomes really disgruntled and annoying and mean, and he basically ruins the wedding on purpose. And then in the end, he's just a good guy. And I'm like, I don't really like how we did that with his character arc. It was this weird, thing. Didn't really care for that. Didn't need that in the story. But I think having Michael Pena there was really a good idea. I do like Michael Pena. I like what he's in all the time. And this, I think he's good for the part. I just don't think the part was necessary. Pallavi Sharda as Preeta. Preeta is the wife, or the betrothed to the husband here. And she's cool. She didn't have a lot of screen time, so it's hard to talk about, but I think she was fine. I don't think there was any problem in terms of casting decisions here. I think it was a solid decision. She did great, and I enjoyed watching her get mad at her husband. Colin Jost as Ben. I love Colin Jost. Colin Jost is one of the few funny people who make it so easy to laugh at comedy, right? It was so easy to just watch. And I really, really, really enjoyed that. I enjoyed his performance. I enjoy the character. I had a lot of fun. I think Colin Jost is the reason why I may watch this movie again in the future. I'm not going to probably, but if I did, it would be because I wanted more Colin Jost, because it's a really funny part of the movie. But I think it's going to do it for me talking about Tom and Jerry. It is on HBO Max if you guys are interested in watching that. It is on HBO Max, free for subscribers, or you can, I believe, you can rent it on other streaming services, but you have to pay money for it. But I'm going to go ahead and give this movie a B-. I think a B- is fair, simply given the fact that I didn't really care for it, but I do understand that kids nowadays are going to like it. So I did upgrade a little bit from what I would have originally said, but I do believe a B- is a fair grade. But that's going to do it for me today. No more new videos today. This will be it, I believe, for what I'm going to be doing today. In the future, be looking for more. I do have videos coming out tomorrow and Sunday, so make sure you guys are looking into those. And then starting back next week, we're starting March, so it's going to be really fun. I'm really excited about it. If you guys haven't voted in the poll, make sure you guys do that. It is on Facebook. It's in the announcements section. Go ahead and go to my Facebook group, go to the announcements and vote in that poll. Okay, because soon, very soon, we're going to need to start... I'm going to need to close that poll, so make sure you guys are looking forward to that, all right? I'm definitely looking forward to it. It looks like right now Lord of the Rings is winning, and Quentin Tarantino movies are closely behind. But I think that's going to do it for me today. As always, keep watching movies and television, stay educated, and I'll see you guys in the next video.